The Miami Dolphins saw Tyler Boyd go off the free agent market, and they did not wait around much longer as they have made a massive splash after the draft, even after adding Malik Washington and Taj Washington. The Miami Dolphins have signed the top wide receiver left on the open market. Odell Beckham Jr. is on his way to South Beach. We will talk about that. All of the details will be laid out for you. Everything OBJ to Miami will be covered in this episode. So smash the like button. Subscribe if you're new. Let's get into it, baby.
Loses the football. Touchdown! You have got to be kidding me. Jalen Waddle has a Dolphin touchdown. And he will score. Field down the near side, man open. Touchdown! The run from Tua Tagovailoa. Touchdown! He's going deep. He's going up for the touchdown again.
Beautiful day to be a Dolphin fan. Let's go! The Miami Dolphins have done it again. Happy Friday to everyone. It is a beautiful day to be a Dolphins fan. Man, it finally happened. We were talking yesterday. Would you add Justin Simmons or Odell Beckham Jr.? Well, the Miami Dolphins, less than 24 hours later, answered that question for us. And let's be honest, they've still got room post June 1st to add a lot more talent to this room. Once we get into the details of the money, how could you not do this? It makes a ton of sense. And I'll say this, the Miami Dolphins right now, as we sit here, they have the best wide receiver room in the NFL. They just do. I see some people saying, well, first of all, he's coming from a system where it's not wide receiver friendly in Baltimore. I mean, that's just the fact of the matter. It's not wide receiver friendly in Baltimore. Go watch him in that second half of the season with the Rams and that playoff run and that Super Bowl game before he got hurt when he scored the first touchdown of the game. We have got a contributor, and as a number 3 in the pecking order, OBJ is going to feast. OBJ is going to eat behind Tyreek and Jalen Waddle. And what does it also give us? A little insurance in case we're dealing once again with a banged up Tyreek Hill and a banged up Jalen Waddle. So I don't know how fans can't be excited right now. And then you got Malik Washington right behind them. I don't know how fans are not excited and not doing backflips over this. I mean, this is a fantastic deal once we break everything down here. And it started off this morning. Barry was kind of giving us a hint. I don't know if anyone saw, but Barry kind of gave us a hint. And what am I talking about? I'm talking about this. Barry was hinting this morning about 9:23, said DJ Chark off the board, who signed with the Chargers after Tyler Boyd went to the Titans, right? And Odell's still out there. Dolphins' options to add a veteran skilled wide receiver, number 3, are diminishing. They have a lot of slots, and Izakama will get his chance. And he said, still expecting a vet to be added at some point. And quite frankly, he didn't have to wait very long. The Bills are out here signing Chase Claypool, and the Miami Dolphins are out here adding OBJ. Anyone telling you this is not a good deal, they don't know ball. I don't know what else to tell you right now. This is a fantastic situation. So let's go off. Let's get into it. I mean, Finn's rule said it right there. 3-time Pro Bowler is our wide receiver 3 right now. Come on, people. This is an absolute steal. So let's get into it. All right. 3-time Pro Bowl wide receiver Odell Beckham Jr. is signing with the Dolphins. Sources told Tom Pelissero as well as Ian Rappaport. Oh boy. It is for real. Thank God. Thank God Josh Rosen's gone, so we got that number 3 we can give Odell, huh? I mean, you know, this is something in terms of adding to the room. How could you do any better than this right now? Unless you were going to draft one of those top 5 receivers, and yes, I am including Xavier Legette. Unless you were going to draft one of those top 5 receivers, how could you do better than this right now in the open market? You can't add Tyler Boyd because he's another slot guy, and we just added basically 2 slot guys in the draft, and we already have our fair share of them with Berrios and such. How could you do better finding a boundary option right now? And who can also flex into the slot if you need him to? I don't know how people are not excited about OBJ coming to the Miami Dolphins as a wide receiver 3. I mean, and this is a 4-4-3 guy we're adding here. We're not adding some guy that runs a 4-5 or a 4-6. We're adding another 4-4 guy to the mix. But with sure hands, who's also, you know, aside from injuries, when he's on the field, he's a difference maker. Just add Stafford and the Rams. Now, people are going to say, oh, and I already covered this a little bit, but people are going to say, oh, reason. But last year, you know, with Baltimore, guys, he had 64 targets last year and he had 35 receptions. He had 565 yards and 3 touchdowns on 35 receptions. The guy was averaging 16.1 yards per reception. That was the highest of his career last year. And Tua is a better timing thrower, right? Tua anticipates better. Tua is going to lead him into open space. I mean, and if you go back and you watch Lamar last year, it's the same thing with Bateman. Bateman has underachieved, and it's because of how many times do you go back and watch Lamar and he's missing these wide open guys. And OBJ's hands are as sure as ever. Tua's going to be throwing him into open space. That's just a fact. I mean, you're coming now to the passing yards leader in the NFL. I'm telling you, man, 5,000 is a real possibility right now. And, you know, and you don't think a guy like Jalen Ramsey was vouching for this? Right? Ramsey went to the Super Bowl with this guy. And guess what? He was one of the dudes that put them over the top. I'm just saying. This addition is absolutely, I'm here for it, man. I'm here for it. I approve of this message 110%. As a wide receiver 3, how many people in the league right now, how many teams can say they have a wide receiver 3 the caliber of OBJ? How many? How many can say that? Ask yourself that. There's not very many teams, if any. So, I mean, this is a fantastic addition, people. And it gets even more fantastic when you start diving into the numbers. When you start diving into the numbers, it gets even better. So let's dive into those numbers. All right. So the first thing we got was from Pelissero. And Pelissero said it's a 1-year deal worth up to $8.25 million. Up to $8.25 million. That means it ain't $8.25 million. And look inside yourself right now. None of y'all thought we would be getting him on a deal, and I'll show you what the base pay is in a second. We'll get even deeper than the base pay. None of y'all thought we would get him on a deal, an incentive-based deal up to $8.25 million. We all thought he was going to come in around 10. I thought he'd be around 9, 10 with incentives to get him up to 12. I mean, this is a steal. This is a steal, ladies and gentlemen. And remember, he signed a 1-year, $18 million deal with the Ravens last year. All right, we got him for like $10 million less. So, I mean, we got him on the discount here. And if you look at OBJ and what he did last year, right? I correct myself. It was 1 year, $15 million. He got $13.835 million of that $15 million guaranteed. They guaranteed him over $13 million last year. And we've guaranteed him about $10 million less. And how do I know that? Because the base is only about $3 million. And you can thank Barry Jackson for letting us know what the deal is. Barry Jackson said 2 sources said the Dolphins did not raise the original offer of $3 million base, but agreed to pay him more than $5 million in incentives if he reaches out. That's where compromise was reached. There were other suitors, but Beckham liked Miami and McDaniel. So we got a $3 million base salary. We're paying Odell Beckham Jr. How can you be mad at this? How can you be mad at this? If you are mad at this, you are just a hater. I don't know what else to say to you. That is a freaking steal. That is a robbery without a ski mask and a Glock 9. I'm here for it, man. Barry says, I remember I was told free agents didn't want to come to Miami because of Tua. Well, that's changed. And we still got $18.5 million coming off the books on June 1st. They still got money. They still got money to upgrade that offensive line. And realistically, after we see this, they've still got money where if Justin Simmons is willing to play ball, they could very well add Justin Simmons. We didn't think it would be a potential option because we thought they would both be coming in around $10 million when that is just not the case. I mean, this is just, I don't know how people, I don't know how people are not excited about this because you got some people trying to just be Debbie Downers about it. I mean, this is the definition of a low risk, high reward type of deal. That's what this is. Low risk, high reward. And what's the high reward? And if he does hit the high reward, he's not breaking your bank. He's not breaking your bank if you hit that. And the key thing too in here, in that tweet I just showed, there were other suitors. And he chose us. I mean, look at our running back room and look at our wide receiver room now. The draft picks are going to cost about $7 million. Me and Neil talked about that yesterday. It's going to cost about $7 million off your books for the draft picks. So that'll leave you about $11.5 million. Don't forget, once they extend Tua, that's another $10 million. Right? So if you actually think about it, between X and the Tua extension, they're going to add almost $30 million just between those two. And then $7 million of that comes off for the rookies. So you're really, if you want to play with it, if you want to take the $7 million off, you get Tua extended and X's money comes off the board. That's about almost $22 million right there you get to play with on the market. So they're not hindering themselves. They're not backing themselves up into a corner. They're not handcuffing themselves. Again, once that 2 extension hits, that's another $10 million off the books at least. They're going to have plenty of money to play with after June 1st and after that 2 extension. And now, I'm going to say it. We got someone to throw the fade to in the red zone. And I know this team is down for it. I know they're down 110%. I had a Patreon update when this OBJ stuff started leaking out. You know, I knew through pretty good intel, right? I knew that what was happening was they already explored this with Tyreek. You remember when Tyreek was on vacation in Paris, last month or whatever it was? Chris Greer was blowing him up, and they were getting his okay to move forward with OBJ. So I know all the boys in the locker room are on board with this. 110%. And what can you say? I mean, look at this. You look at this right here. The Dolphins came up significantly to offer of $8.25 million to get it done. As they reported all offseason, Dolphins were determined to find an accomplished, skilled, and dangerous number 3 receiver. They didn't want any old Joe Blow. They didn't want anything to do with it. They wanted a legitimate option. That's why I said, unless they added one of those top 5 receivers in the draft, I just don't see how they were going to. I just don't see it. I just don't see how they were going to supplement that desire. And this is why I go back to the show yesterday. Listen, I know Neil thinks they were trying to trade up for Tyler Guyton. I disagree. I think they're trying to trade up for Xavier Legette. I stick by that. Now that I see how quickly this signing came, 8 days after round 1 of the draft, 7 days after round 2. Adding that third receiver was a top priority for the Miami Dolphins, clearly. And OBJ taking a $3 million base with incentives up to 8.25. We all know OBJ and how he rocks. That tells you how in he is. Amanda says, what do you think his incentives are as far as stats? I can't sit here and even speculate on that. I listen, I'm not going to sit here, unlike other people, I can admit when I'm out of my depth. And I'm out of my depth on that one. We got to wait for those numbers to come out, right? Like, I can't sit here and give you that kind of answer with a straight face. You know what I mean? I just can't, and I don't want to. That's unfair if I do. That's like super unfair of me if I were to sit up here and just do that. Now, I can assume, it might be 750 yards. I don't think it's 1,000 because with Tyreek and, that would be quite the task. I'm not saying it can't be done, but that'd be quite the task, I guarantee you there's probably playtime incentives as well, right? That's probably a real thing because he has had injuries. So I do think that's a possibility. And it's probably like 750-ish yards, maybe 5+ touchdowns. I don't know. Hopefully we get that information. But, I mean, that's just me guessing. That's not even an overly educated guess. Because I don't know. Only him, his agent, and Chris Greer and Brandon Shore know the answer to that, not me. But I will say this, Amanda. I'm as interested as you to see what the incentives are. And I'm sure that's something guys like Barry Jackson and such are working on right now. And again, notice how McDaniel was mentioned. Check this one out. Barry's just dropping the bombs, best in the biz. McDaniel spent time on the phone with Odell from the start before his visit. Cultivated a relationship, made him feel wanted, per Odell's associate. Another example of how Mike's people skills pay dividends. So there were other suitors, but Mike McDaniel and the Miami Dolphins made him feel the most wanted. And Barry's got it right. If you give me 500+ yards and 4 or 5 touchdowns, I am good. Let's go. I mean, you're probably going to have another 1,800-ish from Tyreek. You're probably going to have 12 to 1,400 from Jalen. You give me 500+? Hell, just between the three of you, right? We're flirting with over 3,500 just between the three of them. And Rome, you know what time it is. Cash Greer's at work, baby. Listen, I'm going to address this once and one time only. 616 in LA was not as good as Euphoria to me. Euphoria has grown on me. 616 in LA, the first half are like throwaway bars, right? I'll be honest with you. TaylorMade and 616, they both get like 7 out of 10s for me. Push-ups and Euphoria are the ones in this, and Drake's about to come. So, man, I just want good hip-hop. I'm a fan of both. I've been a fan of both for, I've been listening to Kendrick since Overly Dedicated. I've been listening to Drake since Comeback Season. So I'm a fan of both. I'm a bigger fan of hip-hop than I am of any single artist except Nas. So I just want a good battle. That's all I'm at. Drake is not cooked. No one in this battle has dropped an ether. No one has dropped an ether level diss. No one has dropped a come upon that dome and chop it off diss. No one yet. So that's what that is. No one's dropped the finisher. So now back to OBJ. In terms of OBJ, we've made him feel wanted. Again, I go back to, guys, we got him for $3 million with incentives up to 8. We must have made him feel really wanted if he took that big of a pay cut. Again, we go back to it. This is coming off the Ravens giving him a 1-year, $15 million deal with over $13 million of that guaranteed. Like, that is ridiculous. Talk about a steal. Talk about a steal. Think about this. The Ravens gave him $13 million guaranteed, $15 million deal. We gave him $8.25 up to incentives and $3 million guaranteed. We gave him $10 million less in guaranteed money, and even if he hits all the accelerators and the incentives, you're making about 55% to 60% of the total value of the Ravens contract. Like, that's for a 3-time Pro Bowler. And I agree, ball game. I'd still get Justin Simmons, 110%. OBJ, it's $3 million base. Incentives can get him up to $8.25 million, 1-year deal. That is how much he is, all right? $3 million base. Incentives can get him up to $8.25 million. Like, look inside yourself. Even the people that don't like OBJ. Did anyone in their right mind think you'd get him on that cheap? The cost alone, how do you not like the deal? This is the definition of a low-risk, high-reward deal. It's literally the definition of it. I am absolutely shocked we are sitting here after signing him for $3 million. Unbelievable stuff. And for all of you that are wondering about the space, the cap space, and where we're at, Dolphins entered today with about $3.78 million in cap space per the NFL Players Union. So they don't even need to wait to get Xavier money off the books to add an accomplished number 3 receiver. And even Barry says, good job and good effort. They didn't even need to create space. They didn't even need to create space. And I repeat myself again, okay? The draft class is going to cost around $7 million. Xavier Howard's $18.5 million comes off the books June 1st. Then when we extend Tua, we get another $10 million or so off the books. They're about to add almost $29 million in cap space, and only 7 of that is going to have to go towards our draft class. They've added OBJ, and they're still going to have $22 million to play with. This team can literally go out and say, hey, Justin, you want to come play here? We can give you $8 to $10 million. Like, and there's even tons of guard options out there. You know, you go just beyond Dalton Reisner, right? And think about this. You know, you can go into Andres Pete, who's played next to, he can play left, he can play left guard, he can play left tackle. He's played next to Taron Armstead. Greg Van Rotten's still out there. They brought in Phil Haynes. Mark Lewinsky's still out there. Halai Vatai is still out there. Justin Pugh, Trey Turner, Tyree Phillips, Wyatt Davis, Peter Elflin. There's still names out there you can add. I mean, you could add 2 of those guys and you're not even cracking $10 million. Real talk. Shout out to Brad, comes through and he gifted 5 memberships. Rome Gray got 1. Dolphins X Tua, SoFlo Soul, M Cord, and Ron Stud 73. And you nailed it, man. Sticky hands and a great route runner for $3 million. Please, I want someone to try and explain to me how this is a bad deal. And I don't want to hear, oh, well, he's in Miami. He was in LA and he was fine. He was in New York, and other than a yacht, what was the issue in New York? right? This is just going to be some fallacy people are going to come up with to try and make it seem like this isn't a good deal just because they don't like the player. Because as far as I've heard, Odell Beckham Jr. is a pretty good locker room type of guy. I've never heard him as being a bad leader. We didn't add Terrell Owens. And you know what? I still think he's hungry for a Super Bowl, and I'll tell you why. Yeah, he scored the first touchdown for the Rams in the Super Bowl, but then he got hurt. The competitor in him probably is thinking, man, I want to be on the field for that whole game, and I want to contribute from the first minute to the last. He's about building his legacy right now. That's where we're at with OBJ. JC Arena says, this is a shocker to me. What's a shocker to me is you're paying him $3 million. They paid him $3 million base and incentives up to $8.25 million. Let me know how that movie is. I can't wait to watch it. I'm actually gonna. The one I got on deck is Late Night with the Devil. I'm excited to watch this movie. But I don't know how you can't be happy about this deal. This is so low risk, high reward for the Dolphins. It's incredible. And let's be honest. If the Miami Dolphins add another safety and another guard, do they have a better roster than what they had last year? That's a legitimate question to start asking. If this team adds a Dalton Reisner or an Andres Pete or a Phil Haynes, and then they turn around and they add a safety, is there an argument? Is there an argument? I mean, don't let them add Justin Simmons or y'all are going to hate us. Because we're going to be stunting. But I mean, you look at the guards left. I just don't know. Like Dalton Reisner, Phil Haynes, Halavatai, Greg Van Rotten, Mark Lewinsky, Justin Pugh, Tyree Phillips, Trey Turner, Pat Eflin, Andres Pete, Wyatt Davis. Now, please don't give me DJ Fluker. We've already been through that. And then you look at the safeties that are out there right now, right? Justin Simmons, Quandre Diggs is still out there. Marcus May, Eddie Jackson. Hell, Jamal Adams is still out there if you want to add a box guy. Tracy Walker, who's battled injuries but looked like he was really going to be something good before they started piling up in Detroit. Kareem Jackson. Keanu Neal. There are safety options available too. I mean, if this team goes out and adds a veteran interior lineman or two, plus they add one of those free agent safeties, this is a better roster than what it was last year. That's just a fact. And I don't know if you guys are seeing it, but Miami Dolphin players are already starting to react. Look at what Jalen Ramsey said. You remember what happened last time, right? Oh boy. Is Ramsey calling his shot? Is Ramsey calling his shot this year for the Miami Dolphins? Are we going to be sniffing a Super Bowl? Jalen Waddle, OBJ, that's tough, with a bunch of fire emojis, baby. Let's go. Let's go. And you know Tyreek excited. What do you say? It's about to get ugly in Miami. Scary hours, baby. Scary hours right now. I'm sorry. I just don't know how people can't like this signing. I don't know how you can knock this signing. At the cost we got him for? At the cost we got him for? How can you knock this signing? Someone tell me how you can knock this signing. And the things Tua is going to do. Man, come on, baby. Let's go. This $3 million base salary is a steal with no ski mask and Glock 9. Now, diving further into it for the Miami Herald. The NFL was already on high alert because of the offensive weaponry the number one ranked Miami Dolphins offense had last season. So just imagine what's possible now that Odell Beckham Jr. has agreed to terms. Beckham, a three-time Pro Bowl selection who has started 97 NFL games, plans to sign a one-year deal with the Dolphins that will pay him a base salary of $3 million, but features $5.25 million in incentives according to a league source. The Dolphins entered the week with just less than $4 million in cap space, and that was just enough to get the deal done before the $18.5 million becomes available on June 1st for the release of Pro Bowl cornerback Xavier Howard. Once the deal is signed and Beckham passes a physical, the 31-year-old will join a receiving group that features Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, who last season accounted for 2,813 receiving yards and scored 17 touchdowns on 191 catches. And that's despite collectively missing 4 games because each was slowed by ankle injuries in the final month of the season. Beckham, a three-time Pro Bowl selection, visited the Dolphins early in free agency, but a deal was never consummated. And it was assumed that both sides had moved on, especially after Miami selected Malik Washington and Taj Washington in the later rounds of the NFL draft. It wasn't assumed over here because we knew they added slot guys, and that's why I even put up a poll yesterday on Twitter. Would you take OBJ or Justin Simmons? Because they didn't add a boundary guy. They didn't add an X and a Z guy. They added wide guys. But it seems as if Beckham, who was paid $16 million to be the team's number 3 receiver in Baltimore last season, never lost interest and seemingly lowered his asking price. The Dolphins need a possession receiver who can masquerade as a between-the-hashes target, and that is exactly the role Beckham played last season for the Ravens, contributing 565 receiving yards and 3 touchdowns on 35 receptions he pulled down in 16 games. However, these days, Beckham, who sat out a year after rehabbing a knee injury in 2022, is more of a big name than a game changer. He was a 1,000-yard receiver 5 times in his 9 seasons, but has spent the majority of the past 7 years battling through serious injuries and fighting off rust. Beckham, who has 566 career receptions for 7,932 yards and 60 touchdowns, could seamlessly fit into Miami's offense because his skill set would allow him to attack the middle of the field. And that's the thing right there. As it stands, Braxton Berrios, River Craycraft, who were both re-signed this offseason, Eric Ezukanma, a 2022 fourth-round pick who was sidelined by neck injury last year, Malik and Taj Washington, the draftees, and Braylon Sanders and Anthony Schwartz, 2 youngsters who spent time on Miami's practice squad, and now Beckham are competing to see who will round out the 5 or 6 player receiver unit behind Hill and Waddle. So absolutely massive signing by the Miami Dolphins. Again, low cost, potentially high reward. Potentially high reward. All right? So, I'm telling you, man, I don't know how you cannot be happy with this signing. At the cost we got him at, I mean, this is good stuff. This is the definition of low risk, high reward. And again, 35 receptions. Okay, we might ask you to catch, 50, 60 balls this year. We're not going to be asking you to load it up and catch 100 balls. We're just not going to. Right? And for people who are thinking there won't be targets to go around, remember, Tua threw the ball 560 times last year. All right? Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle accounted for 275 of those targets. So, I mean, if you do the math, that's almost 300, that's about 285 extra targets to go around. Almost 300. And we know Durham Smythe ain't going to be swallowing them up. He only had 43 targets last year. I mean, if you do the target share, Durham Smythe had 43. Cedric Wilson had 38. Barrios had 33. Achane had 37. Achane had more targets than Braxton Berrios. Raheem Mostert had almost just as many. He had 32. River Craycraft only had 12. And this offense is filled with dynamic playmakers. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and OBJ at receivers, and Malik Washington. Trust me. Wait. Okay? Wait for that one to come through. Malik was going to be a playmaker. Out of the backfield, Achane, Mostert, Wright, tight end room, Jonnu Smith. There are playmakers everywhere right now. Everywhere. All over. This roster, man, you add another interior lineman and you add a safety, we are ready to roll, baby. Let's go. We are ready to. What a way to start your Friday, huh? Nothing like an OBJ signing. And here's another thing. And I know Tyreek ain't going to like this, but OBJ helps you. What happened by the end of the season? Tyreek started getting banged up because he was getting overfed. Now there's not. You don't have to overfeed him. You don't have to force it. And like I said, we still got $18.5 million come off the books for Xavier Howard. And then when you sign Tua, that'll be another $10+ million. And $7 million of all that will go towards our draft class. So you got like 22-ish million you're still going to have to play with. And they're not going to roll over all 22 million. And you could see why they moved on this, right? It looks like Tyler Boyd's probably going to go to Tennessee, right? After, and he was scheduled to visit with the Chargers and the Titans. And even the Chargers moved on, and they signed DJ Shark. Now, Tyler Boyd, I don't think was no longer fit after you got Malik and Taj. Shark could have been a fit because he can play the boundary. But they were clearly like, yo, we're not going to wait around. We got to move this now because we got to get this worked out because our options are getting limited. So, again, I don't know how you can't be happy with this deal if you're a Dolphin fan. Again, we're not asking him to be the number one. We're not even asking him to be the number two. We're asking him to be the number three. A 3-time Pro Bowler be our number 3. So, no, because AB was a head case. But if you're talking about in terms of play, when they threw AB the ball, AB was doing it. But AB was like a special head case. You know what I mean? So, but this feels like a really, really smart signing. Shout out to Chris Greer for getting it done. I remember all the doom and gloom when we let Christian Wilkins go get money somewhere else and Robert Hunt get money somewhere else. And now he's a guard and a safety away from having a better roster than last year when those guys we let walk were there. So, guys, smash the like button. Subscribe if you're new. Over 700 of you in the room. I appreciate all y'all coming through. Smash that like button. You already know what time it is, baby. Man, we are going to see you on the next one. As always, fins up, or go Fins, because the cease and desist came our way from Margaritaville. Should have put that out there, should I? It came quicker than I thought it would. So, smash that like button. Subscribe if you're new. Enjoy the rest of your Friday, guys. Enjoy it. It's a great day to be a Fins fan because the Bills are adding Chase Claypool and we added OBJ. We are not the same, baby. See y'all in the next one.